5 o'clock my time, and I'm hoping we get a few people here to join me. I started doing this last week, talking about my writing for the week and why I wrote it, and to give you a little more insight about my writing and what makes me think the way I do and write the way I do, and the point I like to get across behind it. So I have my computer up. I think I can see, if I look back and forth on my computer and my iPad, I can keep up with questions and comments a little bit more. So I'm going to just make sure it's showing up both places while we wait here to see if anybody joins us. And remember, I don't know that you're there unless you comment or click the like button or ask me a question. I don't know if you're there. So I would just be sitting here rattling on and talking to myself until I see that you're there chatting back with me. So let me see. Okay, I think we're good to go. This week I wrote a little piece called The Man I Never Knew. And it's about my dad and his dad. My dad's biological father passed away when he was 9 months old from tuberculosis. And so he never really met him, never knew him, and obviously we didn't either. And so it's a strange dynamic to have someone like that in your family that you never knew. So you don't hear a lot of stories about them, you don't know a lot about them. I've seen a few pictures, and that's about it. So few years ago, I took my mom back to Illinois, where all my relatives are from, and my mom wanted to go. It was her birthday, Mother's Day present from me, and I went with her back to Illinois. And one of the things I wanted to do was find the gravesite of my grandfather, the man I never knew, the man my dad never knew. I looked online and found the cemetery, and even online on the cemetery they have directions as to where people are buried. So I knew what section, but when I got to the cemetery, it was very old, and the section markers were little pieces of wood that had deteriorated, and I couldn't see the numbers. So I walked literally for a couple hours through the cemetery trying to find the marker for my grandfather. And when I did, I was surprised to see it was a much newer stone than I expected, because my grandmother years later had placed a stone on his grave. So it wasn't placed there the year that he passed. So the stone looked a little newer. And I stood there and looked at his name and wondered what he was like. And I wondered if my dad was like him. And I wondered what people thought of him and how he moved and what his voice sounded like. It was a very interesting, strange, lovely experience. I think on Father's Day, so many of us take it for granted that everybody has a father. Everybody has a dad or a grandfather to spend that day with and to celebrate with, and many of us don't. My dad obviously never knew his dad, although he was fortunate enough that my grandmother remarried, and he had a wonderful stepfather who we all knew as Granddad, and took a loving space in my father's life. But there was still this man we never knew. So when we all think about Father's Day, tomorrow is Father's Day, and we think about calling our dads on the phone or picnicking or spending a day with him or doing something special, there's many of us that don't have a dad to do that with. My dad obviously didn't have his dad growing up, and my dad passed away in 2005, so it's been a long time since I've had a dad to be able to call and wish Happy Father's Day to. And I miss him a lot. So I think I wrote it, as I said in the end of the writing, I wrote it for my grandfather that I didn't know. I wrote it for my dad. Ironically, when my son passed away, his daughter was 9 months old, a very similar time frame to when my dad's dad passed away. So I wrote it for my son, and I wrote it for my granddaughter, who will never know the man that was her father. and I wrote it for myself. And I think I wrote it for all of us out there who are missing that special man in our life that we call dad or stepdad or whoever filled that father role for us in our life. That's why I wrote it. And that's why I walked for 2 hours in a cemetery to pay honor and respect to this man I never knew. And yet this man that without him I would not be here. And my children would not be here. My dad would not have been here. And our lives would not have played out in the way that they did. So I wanted to talk with you a little bit today. I do a newsletter. If you haven't signed up for my newsletter and receive it in the mail, you should. And what I've started to do is when I talk about these writings, then I put it on the next week's newsletter. So this writing that I'm talking about today was last week's newsletter, and then throughout the week I post about it, and I will do this Facebook Live and chat about it a little bit, and then I'll put this live on my next week's newsletter to kind of review it a little bit and then give you the opportunity, if you missed it the week before, to go back and read it again. Whew. So it's a lot of kind of forward thinking and backward thinking and reviewing of what I write, and interesting for me to hear your comments, and after you've read it and it has sunk in a little bit, or after you've experienced Father's Day tomorrow, how you felt about Father's Day and who you spent it with, and how you feel about your dad if maybe he's passed away, or that person in your life that you consider your father figure, and whatever that means to you. That is why I wrote it. I wish you all a very happy Father's Day tomorrow, and however you're going to spend it. I hope that you have your father still with you so that you can spend some time with him. And if they've passed, send them blessings and love. Because it's my belief that they're always with us, and they always hear us, and they always know our hearts. So don't be afraid to talk to them and send them love and blessings wherever they are. I wish for you a great Father's Day. Tomorrow I'm going to post a little piece on Father's Day, a lesson that I learned from my dad. It's just a little snippet of a writing, and it's something that has always stuck with me, something that he told me once, and I've always remembered about giving people second and third chances. So I hope you read that. And if you see this tonight, you still have time to sign up for my newsletter. I will put the link below how to sign up for my newsletter so that you get it. It comes out every Sunday night at 6 o'clock Mountain Time in your inbox, in your email box. And then you can read it whenever you want. It has my writing for the week and a couple other things that I put in, a saying and a life lesson. And now I'm including some of these live chat videos explaining why I write what I do and why I write how I write. And who I write it for is always you. And hopefully it touches your heart because it comes from my heart to yours. Have a lovely evening tonight and a wonderful Father's Day. And I look forward to talking to you all throughout the week. I always am excited to see comments and questions and your life experiences about what I write about and what it means to you. So blessings to you all, and I will talk to you soon.